Employers of Reddit, what is the most inappropriate piece of clothing someone has worn to a job interview? I saw one guy come from the country club pool in an American flag tank top and swim trunks to the club's golf cart boy interview. He didn't get the job and then came back a week later in a full suit apologizing for his previous attire. A guy showed up in flip-flops, cargo shorts and a tank top. Ended up being the best interview of the day by miles. Ended up one of the best people I ever hired. I still don't recommend anyone do this, but it has worked. Edit. This happened in Atlanta, Georgia. So completely unrelated to the other story in this thread. I worked in the US Senate a couple years back. We were interviewing about half a dozen candidates for a pretty junior position. One of the interviewees was wearing a Harvard t-shirt, a Harvard jacket, and Harvard sweatpants. We were astounded. The first question my coworker asked was, "Did you go to Harvard?" The guy did, and he handled the rest of the interview surprisingly well. He didn't get the job, but he did become a running joke in the office for a while. Homecoming dress. She knew she was supposed to dress up for the interview, and that was the nicest thing she had. I felt so bad. She was incredibly embarrassed. It was her first real interview, and in the end I gave her credit for at least putting in the effort. Edit. For everyone asking, yes, she did get a job offer. The attire didn't factor in nearly as much as her coming in prepared, on time, and with questions. A pair of flesh-colored leggings that made her look as if she wasn't wearing pants at all. A sweatshirt that opened in the front that had been pulled to the side a bit to reveal a lacy camisole top. We work as therapists. No fucking way she got that job. For more info, both her wig and glasses were askew. There was an odor somewhere between human and cat urine. And about halfway through she asked if she could take a break because she left her car running to charge her phone. He came into the interview in polo, khakis and aqua-colored Crocs with an anime blushing painted on one and lining up a sniper shot on the other. He was late because security was concerned about his MLP chain wallet. I worked with a guy who applied to the local big city fire department. Apparently all candidates had to submit a passport type photo of themselves, although I failed to see how that's relevant. Diversity quota perhaps. Anyways, this guy was a gym nut and also sent a full head and torso photo of himself with no shirt on. When I asked him why, he replied, "So they know I'm not a twink." Well, it must have worked, as Twinkie is now a firefighter. I interviewed a young woman who wore a skirt so short I did actually see her underwear when she sat down. The underwear was pink. I gave her feedback later that she should have worn a suit. This was for a business analyst role. Everyone else was wearing a suit. I was on the opposite end of this. I was fresh out of school and had been struggling to get an interview anywhere. I finally got a call about an interview at a white collar firm and was told to be at the office at 9 AM and to dress casually. 2 days before the interview, I drove out to the office at 5:15 to see how the employees dressed so I could get an idea of the work environment and what to wear. Everyone was wearing dark suits, including the women. I decided to dress business casual, wearing khaki slacks, a light blue button-down shirt, and a brown sport coat. On the morning of the interview, I arrived at 8:45 AM. I had spent several days preparing responses to potential questions I could be asked. I had fresh copies of my resume in a fancy portfolio and had done everything I could to make a good impression. I even whitened my teeth and got a haircut the day before. I was ready. My interviewer didn't show up until about 10 AM. She walked in and said, "Sorry I'm late. I had some errands to run this morning." I was a little taken aback, especially considering she came in with a big Starbucks cup. I kept my poker face up and pretended like it didn't bother me that she decided to get coffee instead of being on time. Then I noticed she was wearing yoga pants and a sweatshirt. She shook my hand and said, "I thought I told you to dress casually." The rest of the interview went as about expected. She even told me that my GPA, achievements, and awards in grad school didn't matter. She pretty much just made fun of me the whole time in between stories about her kids. Awesome. Maybe if I would have worn a tank top, gym shorts, and flip-flops things might have gone better. I did not get the job. PJs. She was pulled out of bed and brought to me and my boss for her interview she didn't know she was having. After 5 minutes we offered her a job and she actually turned out really well. A few years back, I had someone show up fresh out of the swimming pool, hair wet, bathing suit and cover up on, still wet, hadn't taken the time to dry off. I went through the interview and a test simulation of the job with her. She actually did very well at the simulation. When I took her to see my boss, that made the ultimate decision. He took one look and said no. Didn't ask about the simulation or anything, just no. Edit. 1. Not a lifeguard position. It was for a small textile company that manufactures clean room supplies. 2. Boss was a complete cunt. I have numerous stories about why he did and didn't hire someone after I did initial interview/assessment. One time I was having dinner in a restaurant and saw a young woman come up to the counter and ask for a job application. The employees gave her one and she sat down near me to fill it out. This is when I noticed she was wearing a cap with a huge pot leaf on it. She finished it, returned it to the counter, and asked what the follow-up would be. The employee said, "We'll contact you in a few days for an interview, and when you come back, don't wear that hat." My master's student came to defend his thesis barefooted because his slippers got wet. Edit. This was in Estonia. Back when I was an hourly manager at Walmart, guy came in with greasy hair, white t-shirt full of holes, and sweatpants. And to top it all off, he looked like he had a semi. Surprisingly he didn't smell, and the clothes actually looked clean, so that was good. But still, I gave him a hard no, but the overpass assistant gave him the go. Because he wasn't going to be on her shift, and she thought it was hilarious. This guy was a fucking nightmare. Wore that same outfit, now never washed, almost daily. Smelled like death, ass, and cumin. And he was crazy. We were finally able to fire him after he pulled out his pocket knife and cut his coworker. Thankfully the cut didn't cause any real damage to the kid. But seriously, WTF. I was the person. This was 20 years ago, and I had just moved to the city. I was 17 and spent 3 weeks working as a hostess at Denny's. A friend asked if I wanted to go rollerblading, so I was strapped into my rollerblades and was wearing athletic wear. She then pulled up to her gym, had me walk in my rollerblades up to the second story where the daycare was, and told me that I was interviewing for the nanny job that she heard was available. I actually got the job because the woman who owned the gym was impressed that I could climb stairs in my rollerblades. A tight muscle shirt. It's great that you work out, big guy, but it's not a gym. Plus he only worked his glamour muscles. He was thick around the middle. Dude, at least give the office a show. I have one from just last month. This guy was coming in to interview for a financial advisor program. Everyone in our office dresses very professional, and most people I interview are dressed in their best suits. This gentleman came in wearing a stained white dress shirt with a yellow tinted white undershirt. I forget what kind of pants, but he had a cloth Joker belt, "Why so serious" written all over it with the Joker's face, neon green and black, that he didn't loop through the rest of his pants, and was swaying around when walking. He also had very long creepy fingernails that were very dirty, and he kept rolling and rubbing his fingers together to get the dirt off subconsciously. The icing on the cake was he coughed and snorted something up very loudly, then swallowed it, then loudly commented "nice." Somehow this guy aced our assessments and put together a great resume, but was just the exact opposite of professional. We are still not sure if he was trying to fuck with us or was that terribly oblivious. I just assumed he was interviewing for someone else, like Ben Affleck in Good Will Hunting. Had a candidate come in for a recruiting role. She was young and beautiful, but she was wearing some of the tightest yoga pants ever. Nothing was left to the imagination. Her top looked great though. Not an employer, but I recently watched this train wreck happen. My boyfriend's second job just hired several new people. BF and I were hanging out at his place of work after his shift was over, and we had the pleasure of witnessing an interview. Please note that this is a pretty casual place. All of the workers there wear jeans and gym shoes or boots to work. Their uniform is a t-shirt with the company logo, although sometimes the workers come in wearing a different, occasionally nicer, tops depending on if there's an event there or something. Interviewee shows up wearing the tiniest, tightest, sparkliest party dress I've ever seen in my life. It barely covered her nipples, her entire, braless, back was exposed, and when she sat down on the chair for her interview, her whole bare ass hit the chair, because the dress could not physically stay over her bottom while sitting. She was also wearing 6-inch heels. No offense meant towards prostitutes, truly, seeing as how my best friend was one for a bit, but she honest to God, looked like she had just walked in from the street corner. The only place that outfit would been appropriate was in a bedroom. Really, I cannot stress enough just how little clothing this lady was wearing. It was truly one of those situations where you knew you weren't supposed to stare, but you just couldn't look away. There were customers there at the time as well, and nearly all of them were staring at her in shock, the exception being a couple of men who were there with their wives. Those men were staring straight forward, wide-eyed, not daring to move their heads an inch, lest their wives think they were looking. Like, it was a spectacle. Anyway, so the next day, BF finds out they hired her. Apparently the skeevy old owner of the place liked her resume after all. Hopefully she remembers to wear pants, or at least underwear, when she starts. I was a recruitment manager for a call center, and oh man, let me list a few. 20-something-year-olds strolling in with sweatpants that say I smoke weed 420 all over them. Literally, a t-shirt that said I hate work, a giant gold necklace that said bitch leggings with way too much camel toe, a stripper who came to her interview straight from work, an old man who for some reason made holes in his shirt for his nipples to be exposed, Ninja Turtle pajamas, a man who actually wore decent clothing but then tried to take off his clothing and lay like a plank on the lobby floor. When he went to the elevator, he burned off the buttons with a lighter. None of this is made up. What an experience. A Hegeo hoodie. Not an employer, but when I applied for my citizens it was a pretty grueling interview process. Showed up in a nice shirt, dress pants and a tie. Guy who was interviewing with me showed up in ripped jeans wearing chains and a white shirt. This was an interview with 3 senior paramedics and the medical director of the city. They told him to leave and come back when he was serious about it. It wasn't so much of inappropriate clothing. It was more the action of uncrossing her legs very wide while wearing a short skirt. Meanwhile never taking her eyes off mine. Yeah, she was an hour nightmare waiting to happen. Please like and subscribe, you scrubs. Don't tell your mum on me. Here are some more videos.